What's up, YouTube? So, I got the chance to catch up with a friend, and after our conversation, it got me thinking. I've got a lot of friends that are up to some really cool stuff, and it's really inspirational. How cool would it be if I could share those stories and expertise with other people? So, I decided to create this YouTube segment called Catch Up with Kestner as a way for me to not just keep connected with friends, but also a way for people like you to learn more about raw, genuine experiences and avenues about different careers and lifestyles. So if you like what I do or find anything inspirational from this series, please like, share, subscribe to the channel for more content. First on the series, we have Kevin Huang from LA. Let's get right into his journey. A friend of mine from college named Kevin Huang. I haven't seen Kevin in a while, but we got a chance to catch up a couple days ago. So I just wanted to have him on here, catch up, see what's new in his life, and then yeah, just have him talk about where he's at. So, Kim Huang, tell me who you are. For the people that don't know who you are, tell me a little bit about young Kevin Huang. We'll start off with that
Okay,
first.
that was good. Thanks, Kestner. This is exciting. I've never really done these kinds of interviews before, but yeah. So I'm Kevin. I am a professional dancer and assistant creative director based in Los Angeles, California. My Yeah, like in terms of work, I've danced for people like Lele Pons, Lay Zhang, Steve Aoki, Will I Am. Currently, before quarantine happened, I was working on the tour set of Justin Bieber for his Changes tour. And yeah, like how Kestner and I know each other is we've known each other from college. We went to the same college at UC Davis
Yep.
back in somewhere around early 2010s. I kind of lost count. And yeah, we used to dance together in a guy, this little dance team. And yeah, I
Cool.
think I might be the only guy from the whole team who's still dancing.
Yeah, I think that's funny for to think about now. I think you are the one that really took dance to a new level outside of people on the team. So I'm glad to start off this podcast with you. So cool. Okay. So
Yeah,
I think you touched upon it. You gave a little bit about your resume, super dope. But how did you kind of start off in this career as a producer, as a choreographer, as a dancer? How did you start off with that?
yeah. Each of those have different stories actually. So the big story was when Kester and I were on Agape, like, or when you and I were on Agape, we would go down every single year to San Diego to see this competition called Body Rock, because Agape, I mean, if you couldn't tell from the name, it's a Christian dance team, and Body Rock was held in a church. So it was always like a thing like, oh, let's go see this big
Yeah,
scale dance thing. And it was like a big field trip for everybody to like just go and be inspired to really do something different, see dance in different lights, see all these teams that we've always looked up to and stuff like that.
yeah,
And to just experience all that. And then on the way back up to NorCal, we would stop by LA and take classes at Movement Lifestyle, which was Eric Pham and my favorite dance studio. We were watching their videos since like 2010 when Sean first like dropped those videos and stuff. And we would just take classes and classes on classes, eat Korean barbecue, and just like be excited, like I think at one point we even went to Disneyland. Did you go to Disneyland when we went?
Um, I don't think I did. I don't think I went to Disneyland with you
Okay.
guys, but
I think there was one year where we went to Disneyland at one point. That was a whole little fun shenanigans.
oops.
But yeah, it's like yeah. So one time back in 2016, we just finished like the San Diego portion. We took a bunch of classes at Movement Lifestyle. Esther and myself, we were sitting across from each other at a Korean barbecue table. Everybody was eating, having a good time, and they were just kind of like we were just reminiscing on like some of the classes we just took. And I think it was like we just took Gigi Torres and
Oh,
I
yeah,
think it was Kamal Hanami.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
like people were like, and I think there was like one more, but I can't remember who that was. But like we were all like reminiscing, like, wow, like that was such a fun experience. Just to like do a whole trip, spend commit time to just dance and not to worry about school, not to worry about work or anything like that. It was like a vacation. And then Kestner, you had said like, wow, like it'd be amazing if we could just live in LA and take dance classes all the time. And I was like, I remember I heard that and I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. But like, why not?
Mm,
Like, what's keeping us, right? And so I was just like, like I think that was when the first thought of possibly entertaining dance as a career entered my mind.
mm,
Because I've before that I've never entertained. I just knew I liked dancing. I was like going down the counseling or the business consulting route because that's what like that was kind of what everybody did. They had like a 9 to 5 kind of career planned out ahead of them.
yeah.
Nobody ever entertained like to entertain the idea of dance is like suicide because it was just like dancers don't make money. Like why would you think of doing that?
Huge risk.
And
Huge risk.
yeah, and for me, I was just kind of like, wow, like what if what if I just went for it? And I remember after that time in 2016, uh, I moved down the next week and I found a couch near UCLA that I stayed at. I stayed on it for like 2 months. I'll wake up in the morning, eat some kind of like breakfast, and then I remember I would make like an apple and banana smoothie, and then I would drink that, and then I think I would pack like a sandwich, and then I would take the bus to Movement Lifestyle because parking there was a pain in the butt. So I'll take the bus, and then I would just stay at the studio for the whole day. Like I would sleep on the bench in the morning before their first class because their first like I would arrive at like 11, and then their first class wasn't until like 2. So I would like sleep like I would just like hang out on the bench and like work and then just take class the whole day. Like the first 2 months, I averaged around like 80 to 88 classes a month. It was insane. It was like 20 classes a week. It was just nonstop. And fast forward a little bit towards the end of that experience, I was like, yeah, like after meeting all these other dancers and hearing their stories about what they've been through and how much they're willing to like experience. Like a lot of people were saying like, yeah, I'm not making a lot of money, but like I wouldn't rather do anything else. And I
Mm,
was like, I really enjoy that. I want to be around that. So that's what made me commit to like, yeah, let's just try this out. So I went back up to Sacramento, finished out my classes for the semester, and then January 1st of 2017 moved down to LA to do dance. And it wasn't entirely to do dance at that time. I was actually heavily involved in dance ministry. I organized Project Light back in 2016, and then
dope
in
production, by the way. Super live by that. So good stuff when
yeah,
it happened. I love that. Love that show.
yeah, that stuff is historical. To this day, there's still people saying that like that first show was the highlight, and I'm gonna like take that.
Yeah.
Like, and then when I came down to LA, I got in touch with another showcase called Rise Up, which was like the LA version of Project Light, kind of, different market, but yeah, it was mainly for ministry, and I just wanted to be doing ministry and also be able to dance at the same time. And yeah, so January 1st of 2017, I drove down, crashed on my friend's couch for like I think it was like maybe 2 nights, 1 to 2 nights, and then started off my little journey sleeping out of my car for a
Yeah.
whole year next to ML.
Next to
And that was
right
yeah,
next.
and yeah,
Dang.
right next to it. Like I would just park up right next to the studio, and then because it was well lit, and then I would just like sleep in my car.
Yeah.
And by that point, I had gotten accepted into the work study program at Movement Lifestyle. So I was work studying, taking classes. I figured out how to like make money on the side. I like picked up a restaurant job, I just hustled. I just went. I was like, I gotta get a job. So let's. All right, restaurant job. Okay, what do you need me to do? Okay, you want me to like
But
make I don't know, like serve sushi. Like here you go, you know. And then I drove Uber for a little bit at the very beginning. I drove Uber for like 2 to 3 months, and then I think in April or around March or April, I went to my first audition. It was at Disney in OC.
okay.
And I went in for the audition and then ended up booking the job. So I was dancing in the parade, the Main Street Electrical Parade at Disneyland Park for a while. And then yeah, it's been a full journey. I think things didn't really take off until I ended up getting my own place in September of 2017. Um, by that point, I was living out of my car for a whole year because I first started living out of my car since I went back up to NorCal. And then it wasn't until March where I had applied for because I was concerned about money and I was like, okay, like what do I do? Like I teach leadership workshops on the side. How can I do that locally? And I reached out, I applied for a position at USC and
Okay.
I interviewed to be a leadership educator. And I was actually being like the person was like, we really like you. Like, and then like I would follow and they're like, we're currently in the process of going through HR to create the position.
That's for
And
you.
then I would follow, yeah, for me to
Wow.
create a position for me. I would have been making about $400 a day on call on my schedule,
Oh
you
wow.
know? Yeah, it was a really good deal. Um, and then I checked in another 2 weeks later because I didn't hear anything for a long time. And I was like, hey, like, how we looking? And they're like, oh, like another colleague of ours who we worked with before reached out and said she was interested in the job. So we gave it to her. And I was like,
Dang.
I just felt so robbed, you know? And I remember I had a very, like, I was praying and I remember I had a very angry conversation with God. I was just like, dude, what the hell? Like, you brought me down here and you brought me so far through so much turmoil, actually, because I was going through like some personal life stuff at that time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just rough. And then I think it was the answer that kind of drove me to really dive into the industry because he said, you've been waiting on all these other jobs to make you feel qualified to do what you want to do. And I was like, wow, like, and that was true. I was like, oh, I gotta get the right headshot before I dive into the dance industry. Oh, I gotta like get this kind of job before I teach other people leadership and stuff like that. I was waiting for something to qualify me to
Mm.
do what I wanted to do. And it was when I realized that I was like, I'm just gonna kind of dive in. So I made an account on LA Casting. LA Casting is kind of like the big think of it like a big cast like billboard or like those foam those kind of like wood boards that you stick post-it notes on and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that,
Like a
postings for
corkboard,
jobs.
like a local
Yeah,
cork.
like a corkboard, yeah. Yeah, and except it was like a website and people would post their casting breakdowns on there for like casting talent from
Mm.
actors to dancers to background actors and stuff. And I just made an account. It was $15 a month, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I just applied for everything. I applied for background jobs. I did a whole ton of background work for a long time. Like you might see me randomly on some like there was like this one point in which I was wearing I booked a lot of like nerd high school gamer type roles. Um and like there'd be times in which I'd wear the same outfit because we had to bring our own clothes. I'd wear the same outfit to different shows. So if you look carefully, you might see the same student in the hallway on different shows. you
Wow.
know,
Dang.
which is hilarious. It was a pink button up with like white shorts. It was hilarious. Like, and then all the
I'm
wardrobe
gonna look
people
out for
loved
that.
it.
I'm gonna go back to your videos and find you in the
Oh,
scene.
those are background though, so I don't post my background gig.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is that like, look, I'm in the background of Glee, it's like nobody, your face is all blurred out, you're not recognizable. Like, but you just might see the same like tone of like salmon colored shirt and white shorts, kind of like
You gotta
short.
you gotta send those to me. I want to see those.
I don't even know where they are. I just know I
Uh,
wore them to the set. Yeah. And it was funny because like I had a very commercial face.
mm,
Like I had these thick rimmed glasses at that time and just just black Asian hair, kind of like a comb over, and I would wear a polo. And it was just like a stereotypical Asian student. So camera people would always love me and they would always shove me near the front of the camera.
mm,
And and I did that for a little bit. Like it paid my bills pretty decently. Like it got me by for a while. And then it wasn't until early April that I got my first audition. I was like, it was my first acting audition. And I was like, shoot, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I've taken one acting class as an elective in college, but I was like, just fuck it.
go for it.
Let's go for it, you know? And then, I remember like this project, it was called Project B. And I was like, what's Project B? I don't know. I looked it up. It was like, it took me to random sites. I was like, maybe it's like being produced or something like that. It's like, whatever. So I go in for the audition. I sit down on a bench and I look around. It's like all these Asians around me. Like one guy's wearing like a really cool like racer jacket. He's like all like a white with like black trims, racer jacket. Another guy's just wearing like a t-shirt and stuff. And I'm nervous, so I just start talking. You know, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm like, hey, I'm new here. Like, this is my first audition ever. Like, do you guys have any tips and stuff like that? And people talk, you know, and people are like, yeah, like this is what you should do. And I'll talk to them and stuff like, how long have you been acting? He's like, oh, I've been acting for 4 years and stuff like that. Talk to this other guy. He's like, oh, I've been acting for 17 years. I actually moved here from France to do this. I was like, wow, like this is really, really cool, you know? And then I go in and the guy has me lay down and he's like, all right, you're gonna act like you're waking up. And I was like, okay, I'm waking up. And then he was like, okay, and then now you're going to go to the desk and then you're gonna act like there's no computer desk there, by the way. It's just a mouse and a keyboard.
I
And
pretend.
I'm staring at a camera. And
Yeah.
he's like, you gotta act like you're playing the game. I'm like, okay. And like I used the game a lot when I was in college. So like it was kind of like secondhand. I was just like, yeah, like I used to play a lot of League of Legends and let's just play League of Legends. And then like and I've been on teams before. I've played competitively before, so I knew the terminology and the way they talked, and I just did that, and he was like, "All right, you're done," and I was like, "Okay." I just left, and I was like, "I can't believe I just did my first audition." And then fast forward like a couple days, maybe like 3 days. Um, I remember I was on a shoot. So, oh man, this was a full-on story. So it was a Monday night, and I was coming back from a dance performance that I did for my friend. And my friend, another friend, texts me, and he's like, "Hey Kevin, I'm doing a music video for my own music. I want you to be in it. Could you make it?" And I was like, "Dope. When's rehearsal?" He's like, "It's tonight." And I'm like, "Sick." I go straight to rehearsal, learn the choreography, learn the blocking, and I'm like, "Dope. I'm set." Shoot date is on Wednesday. And then on Tuesday, I get a notice. I get an email saying, "Hey, you got a callback for that audition that you did a little while ago. When is it?" It's Wednesday morning. So I
Uh,
have to conflict between Wednesday morning of a shoot that could potentially pay several $1,000s or my friend's shoot that already learned the choreography and is unpaid. And I was like, what do I do? And like for me, like I don't have this concept. Like apparently now, now I kind of have a different angle on it. Now it's kind of like in the industry, it's like people, if people got to back out of projects for a paid gig or like a callback, it's kind of commonly understood. Yeah, you take the paid gig because everybody's
over
here
the
trying
money.
to.
Yeah.
I didn't have that kind of mindset,
Yeah.
you know, and I was like, it's about my word. Like, what do I do? And I was so stressed out about it because I already learned the choreography and I didn't want to like let my friend down and stuff. So I prayed about it, and then God said, "Let your yes be yes, let your no be no."
Mm.
So I said, "Okay, I'm going to turn down the callback." So I turned down the callback. to the gig. And in the notes I was like, yeah, like I'm so sorry, I already committed to my friend's thing and I really want to like keep my word, so gotta turn down this callback. And then just went and did my friend's shoot the next day, and I show up on set for my friend's shoot. It's cold because it's low budget. Obviously, if you're not paying any of your dancers, it's probably super low budget. It was in a cold, barren studio. It was like it was wood flooring. There was no heater. We were basically naked in the shoot, like, and it was just cold. And I remember I was just like thinking, like, man, I could really be using that couple $1,000 right now if I booked a job. But I was just like, all right, like it was hard for me to focus, and then I was just like doing the choreography and running through everything and stuff like that. And then around 10 a.m., because the shoot started at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., I was like going through my phone and I saw that I got a voicemail. And I was like, okay, that's random. I listened to the voicemail and the guy's like, hey, like this is the guy from whatever the production crew was for that audition. He's like, I got your message about turning down the callback, and the director still really wants to work with you, and we still like you, so we want to put you on a veil. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I like called him back. I was like, yeah, okay, like sure, hell yeah. And like finished that, went back and did my friend's shoot and stuff like that. And then it was interesting because the shoot ended around 3 or 4, and I was driving one of the other dancers back to his place to like drop him off. And we were talking and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, like we were talking about the shoot, and he was like, yeah, it was a fun shoot, and like the extra $100 would be really nice too. And I was like, $100? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, oh, like Ricky decided to pay us. And I was like, oh, what? And apparently, like, he was like, yeah, I'll send you the email. And it turned out that Ricky had sent everybody the email on Tuesday, but I guess he missed me, or he like forgot to add my email. So I just happened to not get that email. So it was like a win-win. I got the paid gig, and I got put on a veil for this other callback. So we rescheduled the callback, and it got scheduled to Friday. I go in and stuff like that. I'm walking through the office. It was in Santa Monica. I was walking through the office, and then the person who's like taking me to the casting place, she turns around. She's like, this is League of Legends, right? And I was like, oh, what? No. And she was like, yeah, it's League of Legends. And I was like, oh, sick. And we do a whole audition, and then I remember I was like, I met the producer, and and he was like, yeah, we got to have some other actors, because it was just me. They made a callback. They set a callback date just for me. And like they pulled some random people in from the office. And we have these office like production people coming in who are like, literally, like one guy was coming in. He's like, dude, I'm not an actor. like, and like, I almost was like, yeah, me neither. But I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that, like,
Yeah.
and then we just did the casting, and then took some pictures and stuff like that, and then like just went about my day. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I just did an audition for League of Legends, and I was telling my friend about it later on. She was like, Kevin, it's a sign, you're gonna book the job. It
Right.
has to. Like everything's pointing towards you booking the job. And I felt really good about it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I booked the job. And then come Saturday, I get a phone call. It's like, congrats, you booked a job. And I was like, oh my God. Like this was my first audition ever. And I booked I stopped playing League of Legends to make time to dance.
Yeah.
And here, ironically, I'm doing a gig for League of Legends. The
Full circle.
next, yeah, the next 4 days was all dedicated to shooting. And yeah, that was my first acting gig, and that taught me so much about acting. It taught me so much about production,
Mm.
because for one, I always tell people, like, that was the first time I've ever been pampered so hard in my life. I've never been pampered like that, because I was a principal actor for a big commercial. And like literally, like, we would arrive on set. We have our private trailers with AC, And then we go in and there's designated hair and makeup separate, one person for hair, one person for makeup, another person, another two people for wardrobe and stuff like that. Everything was custom
Europe.
fitted to us. and and like and we would just chop it up with the makeup people. And uh and then like on set, it's like we would be brought on set whenever they needed us. And when between takes, my hair and makeup person would come in and they're like, okay, let's touch up everything and stuff like that. Okay, go off set, do the take again, keep doing things and stuff like that. And when we're being brought off set, the PA would be like, hey, do you guys need water? I got you water. And then they would bring water with a hole cut out in top with a straw, so that we didn't have to like open the thing. It was like super bougie. And she's like, "Oh, you need chairs? I got you." And she like brought us chairs and stuff like that. I was like, "This PA is like legit, you know." And yeah, it like they would do our nails. They would like shave our faces and stuff like
Every
that. And I learned a lot about take self-care through that, because she was like, oh, you have really healthy cuticles or cuticles, and you should like apply cod oil every single night and stuff like that, or you should do this with coconut oil. And I was like, oh, this is really helpful, and it's
yeah.
teaching me a lot. And that was when I caught the acting bug. So that
Mm,
was when, like, after that job, I like started doing more acting gigs, and I started reading up on acting. I eventually started taking acting classes, and I did that for a little while. And meanwhile, during this time, I've still been dancing. And Was I dancing for? I was still dancing for Disney at that point, I think. No, no, I wasn't. I was done with Disney by that point. Never mind. Different year. But I think when it came to dance, I think I started. I mean, I joined a Christian dance company called Cantinas, and I was doing a lot of dance work through them. And then it wasn't until I think maybe the last year or so where I started booking work separately
mm,
through either LA Casting or personal connections and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. It's like I just started, I guess I had enough experience from
yeah.
being on all these acting sets that I already knew what to do when it came to dancing, because it's the same set. It's the same, like the production is the same between dance and acting. It's
Uh,
just the talent is different. That's all. So that was when I started doing that. And then fast forward a little bit, I was working um, for a friend of mine who was in the Justin Bieber camp. And then through him, I got connected with the creative director for the Justin Bieber camp. And then I started working for him too. And I remember, yeah, it was, I mean, this man, like, it was through that guy. His name's Nick. Through Nick, that was when I started learning about creative direction, about stage, about lighting, or more about directing. That's when I started getting to that. So I mean, that's a really long answer to answer all these different things, and I didn't even answer how I got into choreography. So yeah, I feel long-winded at this point, so I'm just gonna end it there. Yeah.
when I when I hear that story, I love the parts where you were at such like a pivotal moment where you had to make one decision, whether it was take this gig or take that gig, or talk to this person or talk to this person. And in those roads or in that fork where you had to decide a big decision for yourself, you you prayed about it. You went to God. You fell back on your faith, because you knew that's where you would find the answer or you would find guidance. And I think that's super dope that you can pinpoint that in your life, that where because of that significant moment, because of that moment where you took that risk or you took a moment to listen to God, where you kind of had a direction of where you wanted to go, and taking that direction put you on the path that you actually were supposed to go on. So I think it's super dope that you took those risks coming out of college. It's crazy to hear your story about sleeping in your car. and just being able to trust God in those moments. You know, you knew what you wanted, you
Mhm.
took the risks, you took the act of faith, and that took you to where you are now. And I think that's a super dope story. Just hearing that, you know, we used to dance in college together and having all these big grand ideas about taking dance to the next level, but for you to actually act upon that, and take that
Mhm.
to the next level with your faith. um, you mentioned this last time, and briefly in this podcast, about you didn't want to go to LA for just that vision of dance, or that
Yeah.
vision of directing, or that vision of making it big in the industry. You went in with the mindset of ministry, and through that and navigating that, you found your own calling. You found what God wanted you to do, and you found your way that way. So I think
Yeah.
that's what I hold on to when I hear your story, when we catch up. And um, that means a lot, you know, coming from a friend that had the same ideas, had the same dreams, and for you to take it in that direction is super dope. And I'm always happy, like, to hear that story from
Thanks,
you.
man. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, yeah, like you're right. It's like there were very pivotal moments. And the thing is, like, even though the form of the work that I took changed,
Yep.
the 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 integral value remained consistent. Because I was interested in doing ministry because I wanted to create a big dance family.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was for the Christian dancers. Like Christian dancers later they usually struggled to find like a home in church, in
Community.
brick and mortar church, because a lot of church, like a lot of church people don't dance, so it wasn't something that they understood. So dancers felt kind of like off to the side, like they didn't have that the same kind of connection there, and oftentimes those dancers usually end up stopping dance. And in the secular world, they didn't feel fully included either because the secular world might have been too secular for them. So I wanted to create a space where dancers could really share and really appreciate each other and be like this big family, because the reality was that was something I was personally looking for a lot, you know. And I think consistently through all the different avenues, whether it was acting, it was dance, choreography, or creative directing, the core of it is all family. Like I go to every set, I consider every set like a mini family, and I really enjoy it. I really like meeting new dancers, especially as a dancer. Like I feel so free to be able to meet new dancers. If I'm a director or if I'm a choreographer, I'm in charge of a family, and I need to make sure it's like a department. I'm in charge of a mini family to make sure everybody gets the job done, everybody's taken care of, you know. Like there was this one job in which I was brought on as a dancer, but the choreographer was in Korea, and they sent over the choreography in a video that we had to learn from in 3 hours. And I was like, and I looked at the choreography, and it was like this, like the typical movement in Korea is very fast, very intricate. And I
Yeah.
was like, there's no way we're gonna learn this in 3 hours. So I took it on myself to learn the choreography on my own and teach it to the rest of the group the day of. And like that job to this day has still been one of my most stressful jobs, because the choreographer came in and, like, honestly, I would say there was some shadiness. I think the choreography was not happy that production brought on American dancers or LA dancers and not letting him bring his dancers, so that he made it, it was like a setup. He set it up so that we would fail. And the day of the first rehearsal with the choreographer, like he comes in and he's like, I don't like it. You're all y'all's timing is off. And I was like, what the heck, you know? And like he would like tell us like, you guys do to practice, and he would just leave the room for like 30 minutes at a time. And then we would like go out to the bathroom, see him eating with management, eating lunch in the hallway, and we're like, this is so disrespectful, you know? And like they basically wanted to fire us. But I remember I, as kind of like a impromptu dance captain, I was like, I gotta make sure everybody keeps their job. I remember I had dancers coming up to me saying, Kevin, they're gonna fire us. And I said, and I told them, he hasn't fired us yet, so let's keep practicing. Keep
Mhm.
practicing. You know, we're gonna get this right. And we actually successfully ended up keeping the job. Everybody kept the job, nobody got fired, and I was able to talk to production and negotiate a pay raise for every single dancer.
Wow.
So like, cause yeah, even management, even the production team was like, yeah, management was kind of a pain in the ass, you know. But like, but yeah, like that was like, I mean, that's essentially how I view a lot of these production sets. Is everything's like a mini family, and I think the biggest thing about that I absolutely love about the Beaver Camp is everyone's a family.
Mm,
Everyone's known each other for like 10, 15 years. Granted, I mean, I'm coming into it like, hey guys, I'm the new guy, but like the whole group is a big family, and that's how that group works. I'm very proud and very glad to be a part of that because my values align with that in very much the same way.
yeah, the theme from that family. I never thought of it that way. When I think of um, booking different gigs. Granted, I'm still learning, and not that immersed as you are, but thinking about how fast paced and how competitive LA industry can get. Your approach is something that's not too common. You take the situation, you take your the opportunity, and you treat it like family. And I think that's a huge part of your coming from the faith, right? You take everything with open arms. You take everything with that moment to take advantage of, right? You open it and you take it for what it is. You don't let it sweat you. You just be you, and I think that's what got you the opportunities and the chances and the moments, especially for you, is that you seized the opportunity. You treated everyone like they were your own, like a brother and sister, and you just kept wanting to learn from them, and
Yeah.
that's family, right? You lean on family, you learn from family, you appreciate family, you don't put anyone down, and I think that's what
Mhm.
people were attracted to you to.
Mhm.
That was a producer, whether that was a choreographer, whether that was a fellow coworker, they were drawn to that, and I think that aura is what really makes you stick out.
Mm,
Just even
yeah,
from our agape days or just from our college days, I think your persona was just, well, why don't we just bring everyone together? Well, why don't we just do things together? Why don't we include everyone? And I think
yeah,
that's something that you've always had, and I think is a very important or just very essential mindset to have in industries. If you don't take care of the people around you, how do you expect for them to take care of you, right? So keeping that family essence is huge. So I
yeah,
appreciate that. If it's
sure,
cool, I want to move on to the next question,
sure, yeah.
because this is I think an important one that I want to, even for myself, is you talked a lot about your avenues and how you got to where you are, and the decisions that made along the way. But what are some of the best resources that helped you along the way? And I guess some of the worst resources too,
Mhm.
because people navigating the industry or just navigating dance and faith and all that stuff, they get exposed to a lot of different things, right? A lot of different media outlets, a lot of different people offering different resources. So what are some of the best and worst resources that you had along the way to get where you are now?
Well, I mean, there's like two answers to that. One is I think the most important value for anybody in life is being resourceful. So is being able to make the most of what little you have. I think that's the core of production. Actually, is production. The director will have some, or the artist will have some crazy vision, and then the budget will be like, nay, and you got to make it work, and it's like I would say that value was what defined a lot of my career is being resourceful, especially when I was living out of my car. People would ask, oh, how do you shower? Well, I had a 24-hour fitness membership, so I just go work out and shower there. It's like, how do you eat? Like, what about food? Well, I bought a bunch of food from Ralph's that didn't need refrigeration. I just stored it in my trunk, and then I would just eat that. Like, I bought a bunch of canned food. Like, there's always I'm a heavy believer in there's always a way to make something work, and that's especially when you're working with like a celebrity. They're not used to being told no, so oftentimes they would say something, you just got to figure out a way to make it work, and that was kind of the case with my life. In terms of resources for dancers, I just I think there's podcasts out there. There's like the Dance Beat podcast that Galit Friedlander has. She has a whole she's been doing that thing for a while, so I listened to that a lot during my first year. And I think the biggest thing that spoke out to me was just seeing the consistent themes that were being mentioned by people.
Uh,
And one most common ones was know yourself. um, it wasn't very well defined, but constantly it was know yourself. And basically what that means is know how you feel about different topics, know where your personal boundaries are, know your values,
mm,
and when to say yes, when to say no. And that piece of advice for me has actually shaped a lot of the advice that I give newcomers to the dance industry. I constantly tell people it's not when you book jobs, you book who you are. Like the dance industry will find you in its own way. You book who you are. Like when I first came into the industry, I was like this. I mean, I look smart. Like I look like a typical student. I mean, I talk a certain way. I talk like an intellectual. I don't sound like most
yeah,
people. I just sound nerdy. Like I just sound like I like just the way my voice pitches is like when I talk, like people go, "Oh, he's telling us something informational,"
mm,
you know. So like that in itself made me play well in nerd intellectual gamer roles, and
yeah,
that was the kind of work that paid my bills for a while. And now I'm seeking to understand, okay, how who am I in the context of dance? Like,
mm,
yeah, I've played dancing nerd roles before. um that was my role on the movie Booksmart before they cut my role, but I was brought on set as a dancing nerd, you know. um Now I'm digging deeper into myself, into like, okay, like what comes out naturally, authentically as Kevin. And I'm realizing that I'm a really joyful person. Like when I dance, I love dancing. I have so much fun dancing. And ever since I was in a freestyle game, people would say, Kevin, you have this really random smile that kind of creeps up out of nowhere.
yeah.
And yeah, it's because I just really like, yeah. And like I would just really enjoy dancing. It was like this lighthearted, joyful spirit that comes out, which is true. You know, like I've been through a lot in my own life, but I've always dealt with it relatively healthy, I think. Or not always, but for the most part, my mentality and my healing process has been much more whole
Mm.
than uh, what I often hear from other people. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Nice. I lost you for a second, so it was lagging out, so I wasn't sure if you were finished, but I think
Gosh, I'm lagging on my end too.
okay. It's all good.
Yeah, this internet's choppy.
Um, so best resources, knowing yourself, um, listening to other people that have, done it along the way. So I think connections is a
Mhm.
part that you said, networking, right?
Yeah.
And by knowing yourself and networking and staying true to yourself, just being genuine and booking things or finding opportunities that fit who you are. I think that's a good theme to take away from that is like be yourself, know yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay to change to fit a role sometimes, but once you start going down that path of not knowing yourself anymore and or not who knowing why you got into the things that you got to be in to begin with, that's kind of the path that a lot of people lose themselves, right? Um, so, and I think you mentioned, yeah, I think that ties into the worst resources that you can put into yourself, right? Once you let other people tell you what you need to be, or tell you how you should always be acting, or you should do this and that, and when you absorb some of that information and take it really um, upon yourself to change who you are. I think that's one of the worst resources, right? Because you don't want to change who you are. You don't want to lose yourself in the process. It's okay to figure yourself out in the process, and explore and take risks. But as soon as you start losing who you are, that's when things go downhill. So I'm glad that
I
you
think
are on the upper end too.
Yeah, I think it's a very fine line between um changing yourself and drawing inspiration and exploring. I think
Right.
it's a very fine line. You know, one comes from a place of desperation.
Right.
It's like, oh, red hair's in, so everybody dye your hair red.
Yeah.
Versus like, I kind of just want to see something different with my hair.
Mm.
Like, what color should I go with? Oh, maybe red, you know? And it's like one is more playful, exploratory, and
Right.
the other one is desperation because you're seeking a certain result.
Right.
And I think I've made a lot of changes,
Hmm.
and like, who I am as a person has actually changed a lot. I've grown a lot, and I'm much more carefree than I used to be, you know? Um, but like, it's always been heavily rooted in a place of exploration and
Yeah.
seeing what I really enjoy for myself. And I think, yeah, like all those adjustments has taken me deeper into who I am authentically and how I have fun being me.
Yeah. Gotta
Yeah,
gotta have fun. I mean, if you don't have
yeah,
fun,
exactly.
it's the hard part, right? So then, as a closing kind of wrap up, this podcast has been really informational. Learning a lot about your journey, and that's super thankful. Just want to keep that out there. What advice? And you touched upon this in the last question, but for people wanting to pursue a similar route, or say they get inspired with your journey in production, your journey in directing, or your journey in choreography as a dancer, if you were to put some few words together for some advice of people wanting to take that risk in those different areas, what would you say to them?
Um, I would say do your research.
Nice.
I'm a big researcher. So in this industry, there's two ways of approaching things. There's people who do a lot of research and do a lot of prep work, and there's the people who kind of wing it. Both strategies have strengths and weaknesses. I'm learning. It's funny because I work with a lot of the people I work for are much more like the people who wing it, but I'm a very
Research oriented.
research oriented and preparation heavy kind of person. So I'm learning to adapt
Yeah.
and draw from both worlds to make things work. But I think especially for dancers in general though, they don't do enough research. The
Mm,
biggest thing is they don't do enough research. They don't come in with the understanding that yeah, you love dance, but this is a business.
mm,
Dance is a business. So you have to understand how businesses work. There's branding, there's professional, especially professionality, because you're a business. You there's a certain and professionality isn't about like, oh, look at me, I'm a business. Professionality is the the respecting of boundaries.
mm. That's good.
That's what professionality is. Professionality exists that because it's like it's unprofessional to talk about religion or talk about politics. A lot of it is because you're trying to respect people's boundaries, and that's the core of what professionality is. You know, all the polished kind of stuff that is just for aesthetics that comes later. But at the very root of it, it's about respect. And yeah, so research, know, understand business. Oh, and I always recommend for people to study personal finances.
Mm,
Just like some of the biggest corporations have accounting departments to handle all their accounting, and the biggest production sets have a producer to manage their budget. Um, you as a business, as a self-employed business, should understand your own finances. You
mm,
know, understand what your expenses are, where your income's coming in, how to manage and spread out those different finances. I recommend for people to study investing, not necessarily because of the investments themselves, because a lot of dancers at the very beginning they don't make a lot of money. A
mm.
lot of dancers I've done little sessions with and conversations with, they make between $1,500 and $2,000 a month. Um, but at least investing makes people think differently about money.
Mm.
It makes them think a little bit more long term. It makes them think a little bit more big picture. And too many people in general, not just dancers at this point, think too short term. They only think day by day versus week by week or month by month. I'm currently thinking in terms of years now. and I'm headed towards thinking in terms of decades. And
Mhm.
ideally, based off of some of the people I've been learning from, they think in terms of centuries. Actually, they think in terms of impact that they have beyond their own lifetime, and that's ultimately kind of somewhere I want to get to.
Know your money, do your research, right? I think those are
Mhm.
things. Just I guess when you relate that to any career too, right? If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, um, how are you? I mean, it's going to be more of a mentality of how do I survive day by day. And I think you've gotten to the point since you did your research, you can think beyond day by day, right? You don't have to worry about the necessities. And a huge part of that is just finding the right information, right? And like we're all trying to figure out. Sorry, what were we saying?
Information is key.
Information is key.
Information power too. Yeah.
Information is power. And through that information, you figure out what you can or cannot do, right? And what avenues to take. And like you said, finances is a huge thing. Um, I hear a lot of stories too about, finances or money is like the downfall of a lot of industry dancers, right? Because whether you book gigs or not, whether you find opportunities or not, it's a make it or break it situation. So be wise with your finances, work with what you have. I think tying back to the things that you were talking about earlier is you just got to make it work, whether that means sacrificing some things here and there. I know it's hard to sacrifice in a time like this, right? We're all sacrificing with the pandemic and just all these different conversations happening out there. But for anyone trying to pursue dance or industry as a career, I mean, you got some good pieces of advice from Kevin. I think him figuring out his journey, still figuring out, right? We're all students of our nature, learning from the things of other people. Like I said, I'm growing my relationship with Kevin after figuring out things for ourselves. Being distant for a little bit while, doing our own little thing on the side, but being able to reconnect and hear things from how Kevin's doing, and how he's growing his image and his himself basically in his own life through dance and through ministry, and through directing. I'm taking that upon myself. So I hope that whoever's listening on this podcast, whether I'm a friend of you or not, you take something from this, because it's good to hear from not just people that are well known in their respective fields or that are really notorious for doing these kind of things, but simple people like me and Kevin, that are just trying to figure out our own image and where we want to be called to and where we want to just take our skills, take our passions, and take ourselves to the next level. So I appreciate you, Kevin. I don't say that enough, but I appreciate what you do. You represent a lot of people that wanted to take dance to the next level or wanted to take a lot of risk in dance industry, but you also just represent a lot of Asian Americans trying to get more representation out there. I know I talked to you a lot about that last time. You represent a lot of what it means to stick with the faith. Whether you take that in different avenues or not, you still have that in your core, and I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I just appreciate you as an agape brother, man. So no matter what time, distance may have, like I know that I can go to you for something like this, for example, that I'm trying to create for others. So I appreciate you, Kevin. Appreciate you.
You too, man.
Yeah. Final
Cool.
words for the pod.
Um, no, I guess like thanks for tuning in. I hope this was good for you. If you have any personal questions about anything, you could always reach out to me on my Instagram.
Nice.
It's at Kevin P Huang. That's spelled Huang.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm fairly approachable. If you see me around and if you end up coming to LA and you see me around, you feel free to walk up to me. Unless I'm like directing a set, then you just be smart about it.
Professionality,
For the
like,
most,
right?
that professional. Like if you see me and you're like, oh my gosh, like Kevin, yeah, I'm usually very approachable and very friendly, and it's always fun to know who you've made an impact on and what that impact is. So thanks.
You catch Kevin on the street, hit him up. So
Hey,
cool. Thank you, Kevin. Until the
thanks,
next
guys.
time.
Doses. Wow.